Dr. Chandupatla Chakradhar Reddy sir has born in Telangana, India. He has obtained his master's and PhD degrees from IISc Bangalore in 2005 and 2008 respectively. He had worked earlier with J Power Systems Corporation, Hitachi, Japan. He is currently working as an associate professor with the Department of Electrical Engineering, IIT Ropar. He is the author of more than 100 professional publications in reputed journals and conferences. His research interests include HV cable insulation, nano composite dielectrics, and space charge effects. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. You can continue, sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Ranga, for introduction. And a very good morning, all the participants. So these participants are from your institute and across India.
Across India, sir. Even we have 3 to 4 participants from Canada also, sir.
Very nice.
Ji, sir.
So now I will share my presentation. Okay, this is electrothermal limits on power handling capacity of HVDC cables. So, as introduced, I am Chandupatla Chakradhar Reddy, full name CC Reddy, abbreviated as CC Reddy, IIT Ropar, Rupnagar, Punjab, and as part of the program at NIT Srinagar. So the basic contents of the presentation is taken from 5 of my papers published exclusively on HVDC cables. So these include the oldest one is at the bottom, the computation of electric field and temperature, and then intrinsic thermal stability in HVDC cables, and then estimation of thermal breakdown voltage of HVDC cables, polymer nanocomposites, and then theoretical maximum limits on power handling capacity of HVDC cables. Taking too much time to. So introduction. So overhead AC transmission dominates even present day power transmission systems. But for interconnecting large systems and cross-border power transmission, linking independent networks, overhead DC systems are often used. And transmission through cables is even preferred when overhead line is impractical or there are issues with right of way, etc. And when underground cable transmission is to be used, then whether we should go for AC cable or DC cable. Cables are cylindrical capacitors. So under AC, large reactive power is drawn by the cable. So around 10 to 25 amperes per kilometer, depending on the size of the cable. And AC cables become unfeasible for lengths of beyond 40 to 80 kilometers. So we have to go for DC cable transmission only. And for instance, sea, lake or river crossings of large spans, HVDC cable is the only option. So HVDC, why is it gaining importance? And then among the cable transmission and overhead transmission, why cable transmission is essential? And cable transmission, whether AC or DC, is important. And then in some DC is inevitable, and AC suffers from length. And over the years, there is a remarkable increase in the power transmission capacity of HVDC cables. It is running into gigawatts now. So the HVDC cable systems are gaining importance, and voltage levels are also increasing. Some advantages of using HVDC cables are given here. Cable lengths are not limited by charging currents, because a cable, as you have seen just now, since cable is a electric capacitor and it requires charging current. So in particular intervals of cable, so we have to feed the reactive power. Otherwise, we cannot run it for longer distances. And apart from that, asynchronous interconnection is possible. And then power control is easier compared to AC cable. And losses are also low compared to AC. So these are some advantages of using HVDC cable systems. And these advantages, in addition to the continuous development in solid state converters, other components of DC power transmission systems, indicate that the use of HVDC cable system is expected to expand even significantly in the near future. And these are typical structure of HVDC cables. You have this is an extruded cable, where extrusion is the method by which the cable is made, and extruded dielectrics are used. So among these extruded dielectrics, here it is given XLPE, free retarded XLPE, and ethylene propylene rubber. So rubber insulation also used, XLPE is also used, and retardant XLPE is also used for DC case. Of course, for AC case, even PVC also sometimes used. So these are extruded cables, where polymeric materials are deposited on a conductor using a process known as extrusion. And then the other type of cable is mass impregnated cable. So here, unlike the extruded insulation, here this is basically paper insulation. Insulation made up of special pulp of high density paper impregnated with high viscosity compound, which is high viscosity oil. It is impregnated, but it's not a oil filled cable. It is just oil impregnated or mass impregnated. And the other one is oil filled cable. So in this oil is filled in the cable. There is an oil duct you can see here, and the entire cable system is sealed hermetically in lead pipes. So here, aluminum or lead. So the oil pressure need to be maintained at a certain level. The voltage level of this kind of cables is higher compared to mass impregnated cables. Now there is a comparison here. Mass impregnated cable, MI cable, they are in service for about 65 years, highly reliable. For longer time they have been in service. Of course, used up to around 500 kV. And self-contained fluid-filled cables, so used for short connections actually, but high voltages, 800 kV also they pass the test and are in operation up to 500 kV. Maybe after that some installations might have been done. And extruded dielectric cables are under development actually. So until 350 kV they have been successfully developed. But they have many advantages over the 1 and 2 above, the mass impregnated and self-contained fluid-filled cables. Why extruded cables? So in contrast to paper-lapped cables, XLPE cables, cross-linked polyethylene, are made of a solid plastic material. First of all, I should give some background why cables are important. So why cables are important for power transmission? Anyone? or distribution. We can happily go with overhead conductors, right? Even for our country, is there a need for cable transmission or cable distribution?
Yes, sir. To avoid the chances of halt, sir, we are using the cable, sir. And for some places where overhead transmission is not possible, we have an alternative solution to use HV, use cable, sir.
Yeah. Right. And what about modern cities? Can we have overhead distribution systems? See, the world is moving towards, making smart cities across the world, right? So how we can make? So we need to go for, underground power distribution systems using cables. We cannot, have overhead distribution systems with clumsy cables and clumsy wires, and then often with unsafe situations. They may also lead to electrocution of animals, even human beings are, dangerous, and sometimes short circuit may happen. So smart cities must have underground transmission, underground distribution. So even Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi, etc., all state capitals, they must, in due course, go for underground distribution. Apart from this, even transmission, just now we have seen several advantages. Therefore, cable is very, very important in power systems. Even for renewable energy sources, we do need cable transmission for grid integration. So therefore, cable is very, very important. And breakdown in cable means what? Breakdown in cable means, interruption of the power system. That's it. And it involves a lot of investigation, because you have to locate the breakdown, location, and then identify the fault, and then cut it, and then join it again, replace it, and then fill it again. So these are all very difficult or time consuming issues. That is why understanding the cable, and then cable dynamics such as electric and thermal field inside, and then failure of the cable is very, very, very important. So among the cables, extruded cables are modern cables. I can tell you that they are having several advantages compared to paper lapped cables. Paper cables are, oldest cables, and then XLP are latest cables. So XLP cables are made of solid plastic material, and this offers many advantages such as, reduced weight and easy application of accessories. Accessories means cables will have joints and end terminations, because no cable can be produced with infinite length. So every factory has a limitation, and then cable has to be transported to some certain site. So they have to be transported, for example, inland transportation, they use trucks, right? So on a truck, there is a limitation of size of that cable. So therefore, the length also limited, and since length is limited, we have to join the cables using joints, cable joints. And then whenever cable terminates into a overhead transmission line, there is an arrangement known as termination. So that termination and joints are main accessories of any cable system. And in case of extruded cables, these termination and joints are very easy actually. So this is another advantages, and no hydraulic pressure requirement. So in case of SCFF cable, you have seen self-contained fluid filled cable. There is a requirement of maintaining the fluid pressure inside or oil pressure inside the cable. So that pressure is required in order to fill the voids which cause partial discharges or breakdown. So that's why we need hydraulic pressure requirement for those cables. So no such requirement is required, and no maintenance and environmental friendly features are also there with extruded dielectrics. And since oil is not used, oil leakage during cable breakdown does not happen. This makes it easy repair in case of breakdown. In case of SCFF cable, self-contained fluid filled cables, the oil not only needs to be maintained at a certain pressure, but if breakdown occurs, what will happen? The oil will spill over, and then in fact in seas it's a problem actually. So it may damage the flora and fauna of sea. So where it damages the life also. So that is another problem if it happens inside the sea. Even on the ground also, repairing is not that easy, because again you have to seal it properly and then again maintain the pressure of the oil after joining. Joining itself is a difficult process. And high operable temperature can be achieved using XLPE against just 60 degrees for conventional cables offer large conductor current capacity. So if conductor temperature high temperature is possible, obviously the conductor size goes down because I square R loss can be more there. But in case of if the temperature limitation is just 60 degrees, then in that case we have to either limit the current I to a lower value or increase the size. Okay, so to a higher value. So these are the advantages of using extruded cables. Since these advantages are very attractive, then the entire research is on the extruded cables as far as the cable systems is considered. So, but what are the problems? Of course, AC technology is well established. For DC, as I told you, around 350 kilovolts success. And what are the problems? Significant stress and temperature dependent escalation in DC conductivity. So the DC conductivity of insulation, it is of insulation or dielectric material or XLPE. XLPE means cross-linked polyethylene. Polyethylene, all of you know, right? So it is cross-linked and used as an insulation. Cross-linked means it has a lot of polymer chains. So these polymer chains will be interlinked like this using certain processes, certain cross-linking agents, or several cross-linking procedures are available. Even radiation also can be used for cross-linking. So this XLPE material has certain properties of its DC conductivity. Ideally, insulators are conducting. Whether they will be conducting insulators, ideally how they should be. Anyone? Whether insulation will be ideally conducting or not, or an ideal insulation is expected to conduct or not.
Non-conducting.
Yeah, it should not conduct ideally, but it is not possible. Actually, all practical insulations do have certain conduction in them. So this conduction believed to be due to some imperfection or some contamination inside the insulation material. So this is actually not desirable, but it it exists always. So there is some conduction through all the practical dielectrics. Now this conduction is very small actually. Conduction currents are very, very small. Current density is ranging in nano amperes actually, or sometimes picoamperes also. So very, very small currents will flow, but these currents ultimately will cause the breakdown of the insulation. They may appear to be small, but they may cause the breakdown over a period of time. So what is observed is this XLPE, although a very good insulation, it has a peculiar properties of its conduction or DC conductivity that is causing some problem in the insulation material. And there is what is known as a stress inversion problem in the insulation matrix. And when AC cable, when a cable is used as an AC cable, so this is the typical structure of the cable. There is a central conductor, and then there is another conductor outside. Of course, this simple construction I am telling you. And inside the insulation, there will be electric field, because the central conductor will be at high potential HV, and then outer insulation is grounded. So therefore, there will be certain electric field distribution inside the cable dielectric. But in AC case, just I will show you one slide ahead. It is there in the next slide. Yeah, this is the electric field distribution in AC case, given by E equals to V by R ln R by R. So you can see this is the kind of distribution you will find in AC case. This is actually conductor, and this is outer insulation. So this is the typical nature of electric field distribution. Electric field is high at the conductor side of the insulation portion. This is this portion is insulation portion actually. So and electric field is low at the sheath or outer side of the insulation. So I will go back to the previous slide once more. But in case of DC, so in case of AC, you have just seen the electric field distribution. If I just plot here itself, electric field distribution is like this. Means here it is high at the conductor side, and at the insulation, at the outer insulation side or sheath side, it is low. So, but what happens in case of DC is, so if I draw the electric field here, and this is conductor size C, I will put it here, and then outer sheath I will put O here. So if I draw the electric field at different currents, initially it may be like this. For the same voltage I am telling you, if initially it may be like this, at a higher current it may become like this, the electric field, and at a even higher current it may even become like this. So this property phenomena occurs only in DC cable. AC cable, it doesn't depend on the load current at all. So this phenomena is known as stress inversion, so which happens at higher load currents. Therefore, the design of DC cable is complex and involved, and it depends on the load current. So this is one typical property. In case of AC, it doesn't depend on the load current. So what is the reason that has been found is actually it is due to the DC conductivity. So one question now, under AC case, suppose there are few capacitors and then a few resistors in parallel. Okay, so let me draw like this. Like this. See, dielectric material can be approximated using this combination. Means it has certain capacitance and certain resistance in parallel with it. So C and R like this. So I can approximate the dielectric material given here in the cable dielectric like this. Now under AC case and DC case, let us see what will dominate, which aspect will dominate. So if I apply DC voltage, what will happen over a period of time? Suppose here some DC high voltage is applied and this is grounded G equals to 0. Then what will happen to this system? Which component will dominate under DC? Resistance or capacitance or both?
Sir, capacitance.
Capacitance will dominate. See, capacitance will become open after some time, right?
Yes, sir.
Am I correct or not? So capacitance will become open and then resistances are connected. So current will flow through the resistances, but current will not flow through the capacitances. So the voltage distribution is governed by resistances alone. This is not the case in case of AC. In case of AC, the reverse happens. Capacitances will dominate. Of course, both of them will have effect, but mostly capacitances will dominate. That is why the voltage distribution means what electric field distribution is also governed by voltage distribution. So the voltage distribution in AC cable is dependent mostly on capacitances, means epsilon, which is actually doesn't change with significantly doesn't change with electric field or temperature. Of course, changes, but it doesn't change significantly. That is why the electric field distribution in AC cable is almost invariant. But what happens in DC case? In DC case, resistances will dominate. So electric field distribution is governed by resistances alone. That is why resistance means conduction. So DC conductivity, they are related. DC conductivity and DC resistivity are inversely related. 1 by rho equals to sigma. Sigma is used for conduction and rho is used for resistivity. So 1 by rho equals to sigma. So these are inversely related, and rho is related to resistance. Rho L by A is the resistance. So therefore, the electric field distribution under DC is governed by resistances, and the resistances change non-linearly with the electric field as well as temperature. It has been found actually. So that is why it is important to study DC conductivity for HVDC cables, but it's not that much important. Of course, people do study for AC cable also. For AC cable, it's not that significant. So another thing is thermoelectric instability that will occur inside the insulation. So this is also found in XLPE case or runaway, thermal runaway. And accumulation of space charges in the dielectric medium is another aspect. Actually, dielectrics are not supposed to store charge inside also. But peculiarly, polyethylene based insulation or polymeric insulation often has been found to have or store certain charges inside the insulation. So this charge, what will happen if there are charges at any location or any space charges? If there are space charge means at a particular location they will be there, or they will be distributed inside the insulation entirely. So what will happen if some charges are present in somewhere? What is associated with the charge? Chinmay, Himanshu? Are you speaking? I cannot listen anything.
So if space charges are present in dielectric medium, so there's a possibility of electrical conductivity inside them, I guess.
Less possibility of electrical?
Conductivity.
No. Space charges, if they are present, charge is associated with electric field always. Wherever charge is there, with that certain electric field is associated with that. So whenever some charges are present inside the insulation, there will be electric field associated with that. So that may either reduce the existing electric field or enhance the electric field. So suppose there is a certain place, some charges are there. So it is having, reduction in the electric field, or electric field at that place it is reducing. So will there be increment in the electric field any other place if it is reducing locally? Yes, there will be increment because you are applying certain voltage to the cable. So your voltage is constant. So integral E dot dr is constant actually. Integral E dot dr from one end to the other end is constant. So area under the electric field curve should be constant. If area under the electric field is to be constant, and if it is reduced at some point, obviously it will be increasing at some other point. So ultimately, presence of charge, presence of space charge alters the electric field, and it always causes enhancement in the electric field. So this is one of the disadvantages of presence of space charge in the dielectric medium. So this presence of space charges has been observed in case of cross-linked polyethylene and some other polyethylene based insulation, and even some polymers also. So this was not the case actually with the paper insulation. Of course, paper insulation does have very small charge accumulation, but not that much significant like polymeric insulation. So these are the problems. So these four problems, basic problems, have been identified in case of the XLPE cables, which have lot of other advantages. Therefore, research has to be focused on addressing these issues. Of course, this I have already discussed. And DC resistivity, as I told, is very, very significant. So this has to be, researched properly. There are, the several formulae that is available in the literature. So to fit the DC conductivity with the electric field and temperature. So it is a function of E as well as T. So sigma is a function of E and T. So, but what are all these formulae? Actually, the conduction is not yet understood till date. So as Professor Fothergill sometimes has written in a conference paper, the 10 things we do not understand of the dielectrics is, one among them is conduction, breakdown, and then space charge, etc. So therefore, still we do not understand the conduction completely, and people have spent their life completely on conduction, several people actually. And even now, there is a lot of scope for research. Even now, people can spend their lives finding what the conductivity is. So these are actually empirical, semi-empirical, or semi-theoretical formulae. Of course, some, theory has been, tried to be incorporated here in the past, but yet these have certain, empiricism involved in this, means practically experimentally observed phenomena. This is based on phenomena. This will definitely track the phenomena, track the observed phenomena, but is not 100% theoretical basis. That That's what is to be noted. Of course, we have to continue the theoretical analysis. Therefore, we have to use such formula in our theory that is to be proposed for this one. Of course, this is one of the instruments used for measurement. Keithley make, of course, other makes are also available. Very accurate up to 1 femtoamperes, 10 to the power of minus 15 is very accurate. And resistance can be measured up to 10 to the power of 17 ohms. So, and even it has 200 tera ohms input impedance, very huge input impedance. So, this device is used for measurement of currents in dielectrics. We do have in our lab also. So, with the resistivity investigations and then how the electric field is governed in HVDC cable. So, we have basically two formulas here, two governing equations here. One is thermal continuity equation, the first one, and then second one is electrical continuity equation. So, electrical continuity equation, I think you all know the continuity equation, I do believe. So, what it means is charges entering at any point in the insulation and charges leaving that same point in the insulation are same, or whatever charges are entering and are the charges that are leaving any point in the insulation. So, under steady state, this is under steady state. Steady state means what? Steady state means there will be no accumulation of space charge at any point. That is steady state. So, steady state, under steady state, obviously, so since there is no accumulation of charge at any point, whatever charges come to that point must leave that point. So, that is what is the current continuity or charge continuity you can call. And the second one is thermal continuity. So, this is simply heat generated and heat dissipated away from the boundaries is same. So, our sum of these two quantities is 0. So, this is heat generated sigma E square. E is written as del phi whole square, and this is divergence of gradient of temperature. It is heat dissipated away from the boundaries of any point actually. So, this is written in differential form, point form. Therefore, the divergence of at a point actually, and the heat generation is also at a point. This can be written in integral form also. So, these two are basic equations that govern the electric and thermal fields inside the cable. So, in cylindrical geometry. So, these were solved long back, and then this is the temperature distribution, and this is given by the electric field distribution. And what is found is, so this is how the electric field distribution. So, here you can see this is the radius of the dielectric material, and then this is applied voltage. So, as the voltage is increased, initially actually here it is low and here it is high, and then over a period of time you can see the electric field increases at the outer end of the insulation, and then it decreases because the overall area should be constant. Here there is an increment, and then you can see the solutions. There are two solutions from this point onwards. Actually, it has been observed that there are two solutions for every point, actually every voltage, and beyond certain voltage, that is critical state, beyond certain voltage there are no steady state solutions. Means after this voltage the cable must break, because there is no steady state solution for electric field. Electric field must enter into a runaway kind of situation, where ultimately it will lead to huge current inside the cable, and then it must destroy the cable. So, this is what will happen beyond a certain voltage. So, this phenomena has been seen in the electric field distribution itself for the first time in 2006. So, after that, I have done the research on thermal breakdown theory. So thermal breakdown theory, because the breakdown in the cable is electrothermal in nature. So this led me to go back and see the fundamentals, what happened until now. So Whitehead and O'Dwyer were the famous authors who have reported thermal breakdown theory. So it predicts the breakdown voltage of the electric materials based on thermal and electrical properties. So breakdown was defined macroscopically with respect to boundaries. So what it says is, rate of escape of heat from the boundaries falling below the rate of generation of heat inside. Suppose this is the insulation material. I have drawn it circularly, or assume it as a sphere, or it can be a rectangular specimen also. What it says is, if heat generated inside is more than the heat that is going away from the boundaries of the specimen. So then, if this case arises, then obviously the material has to enter into thermal runaway, or the temperature must increase infinitely, and ultimately the material must get damaged. This is what is the proposition of thermal breakdown theory, which is macroscopically defined. It is not microscopically defined. So later on we will see what is the definition that we offer for understanding the thermal breakdown, local thermal breakdown. So rate of escape of heat from the boundaries falling below the rate of generation, which will lead to thermal breakdown. So purportedly the breakdown of insulation was thought to be due only to the heat generated within the insulation by applied voltage. But there is a possibility of in some cases, external heat can be injected into the insulation. So in case of cable, if you see, this is the conductor, right? And then surrounding that there is an insulation material, but heat is generated in the conductor also, not only in the insulation. So thermal breakdown theory says that heat generated in the insulation, if it exceeds certain value, then the breakdown will occur. But what if heat is injected from the cable conductor here? So that aspect was not addressed in the literature. So this has been observed, and the effect of external heat, this is called external heat, because this is not specifically generated within the insulation. And therefore, only two cases were dealt with in which only the heat generated within the insulation was considered, and the boundary conditions were decided accordingly. So I will show you the two cases which were reported in the insulation. This is one of the case actually, where constant temperature boundaries are assumed for the dielectric specimen. And then in this case, if you apply the voltage, so apply the voltage here and then ground this terminal, then what will happen, since these two terminals are exposed equally to the environment, there will be maximum temperature will be at the middle of the insulation. So like this. And this is the temperature profile. And in this case, the breakdown voltage has been derived by Whitehead's integral here. Vm square is equal to integral 8k by sigma dt, which is k is thermal conductivity, sigma is in electrical conductivity. So we can, if we know the thermal conductivity and electrical conductivity, obviously we can estimate the breakdown voltage. That is very important derivation. Long back, it was derived by Whitehead, reported by Whitehead. And then the other case that is reported, which is pertinent to cable case, was considered pertinent to cable case. But it is so. Heat does not enter into the insulation from that boundary. This was considered actually, and this was considered equivalent to cable. But In fact, thermally sealed boundary does not represent the cable conductor at all, because from conductor heat will enter into the dielectric material under steady state, even under transient conditions also. But under steady state also, constant heat will be escaping through the insulation to outer surface through this inner conductor. So this case does not actually represent the cable case, but it was considered to be equivalent to the cable, and then this has been derived. It has been shown that instead of 8K by sigma, it becomes 2K by sigma. See, you observe here, so suddenly the breakdown strength has become reduced. If you assume all properties are linear and all, K, sigma, etc. How many times it decreased in case of thermally sealed boundary, or 8 became 2. So are you paying attention? So who are there? Huda, Farooq.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you tell me how many times it decreased? See,
So in comparison to the previous one,
yeah.
the uniform internal, I think, I guess it's halved. I cannot say, but then according to the graph, I say maybe less than half.
Yeah, it is halved actually.
Okay, yes.
8
Yes,
times
exactly.
became 2 times, right? 1 by 4.
Yeah.
So since square is there, it is halved.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
so if one boundary is sealed, in case of cable, earlier it was assumed that one boundary is sealed. Another boundary heat can escape, because another boundary is exposed to the environment, so heat can escape to the environment. But inner boundary where conductor is existing, there it is thermally sealed, so no heat can escape. But heat cannot escape, that is true, but heat can enter inside. That case was not considered. And that is the next case. Of course, this is the breakdown strength. I'll show you. So the thick slab with external heat injection has been considered actually here. So what if the heat injects into the insulation? So this is actually exactly similar to the cable case. In the cable case, whatever is generated in the conductor, heat generated in the conductor, that enters into the insulation from one of the boundaries. Other boundary is of course exposed to the environment from where the heat will escape. So what is this effect that has been derived by me long back actually, so which resulted in this kind of term. So actually this is Whitehead's integral, and then this is the correction proposed due to external heat injection where Q is the external heat. So therefore the dielectric breakdown voltage further gets reduced under DC due to external heat injection. So this has been proposed in one of my papers, and then further, in particular, the DC cable has a heat source by way of conductor loss in the insulation. This heat needs to cross the insulation before entering the ambient. So heat crosses by way of lattice vibrations, of course. So thermal resistance offered by the insulation and ambient increases the susceptibility of the insulation breakdown due to thermal stability. So this has been proposed and with the correction. And the earlier one is for thick slab or plane parallel geometry, and similar derivation has been done for cylindrical geometry also. So this is the equation, or this is the term, additional term that appears as a reduction to the Whitehead integral. So this has actually lot of consequences here. So the maximum thermal resistance actually, if we define, this is Ri, the insulation resistance is defined like this: R1 to R2 dr by 2 pi r sigma. if we incorporate into that previous equation, what will happen? This is Whitehead's voltage, and this is corrected voltage, and this is the correction. So you can see clearly in terms of it is expressed in terms of the heat is expressed in terms of IL square RC. So here it is dependent, the breakdown voltage is dependent on load current. So this has been proposed, and you can see RC and RIC. This RC is conductor resistance, RIC is this insulation resistance. So insulation resistance and conductor resistance are appearing together, you can see. So here the general expression for one-dimensional case, of course it is similar. Q is replaced here. I square R is replaced by Q here. So this has certain consequences. I will show you. Of course, this is the delta VMC, whatever drop in the voltage. Just subtraction, and then you can obtain this one. So we have, based on this theory, we have revised the fundamentals actually. So the next paper was on the fundamental question whether thermal stability can occur without environmental interaction or not. Conventional theory was based on the premise that the thermal stability is due to external thermal resistance alone or environment alone. But that is a macroscopic view. So, but microscopically inside the insulation itself, there is a possibility of local thermal breakdown. How it will occur? So that has been postulated here. So imbalance between the heat generated in a sample and heat dissipated across its boundary surface for an indefinite period of time results in accumulation of heat in the volume element, and the temperature tends to infinity, called thermal runaway. So it is actually related to a volume element, a small volume element. So within the volume element, if heat generated and heat dissipated from the boundaries of volume element, if there is an imbalance, or if the heat generated is more and heat dissipated is less, in that case, the temperature of the volume element, microscopic volume element, increases suddenly like this. This is the characteristics given. Actually, it is simulated also. This is how local thermal breakdown is initiated, and after initiation, immediately it will cause the breakdown. So these are two depictions of two cases of interactive thermal instability. So here this is the depiction of hottest point temperature. For example, V less than V, V max, there is no breakdown. V equals to V max, it just reached the stability actually. And V more than V max, there is a runaway, thermal runaway, or temperature increases infinitely like this. So this is how the temperature of a hot spot behaves, and resulting in a breakdown. So this is about in internal thermal stability. So just I'm skipping. This is also thermal runaway redefined. And the internal thermal stability has been postulated. Thus, it has been demonstrated that failure can occur internally even under the absence of external interaction. Even if there is no external thermal resistance, even in the absence of external thermal resistance, there is a possibility of runaway occurring inside the insulation. So, therefore, the thermal stability is redefined here. The internal thermal instability is a situation in which the heat generation rate in a small differential volume element of a material sample exceeds the heat escaping away from the element due to its own thermal resistance. There is no need of external thermal resistance here. So this has been reported in IEEE transaction DIS in 2007. And then after this, when the cross-linked polyethylene materials are causing the breakdown due to thermal instability, the thermal instability occurs due to nonlinear properties of DC resistivity. So how to control that? So there are possibilities what are known as materials with nanoparticles embedded inside the insulation. So with the fillers of nano size fillers, the material properties are observed to change drastically. For example, the thermal conductivity changed several times, around 100 times. The the electrical conductivity changed 100 times, decreased 100 times with the addition of MgO nanoparticles in cross-linked polyethylene material. MgO is magnesium oxide, which is again an insulator only. Magnesium is conductor, but magnesium oxide is an insulator. So the nanoparticle size was around 50 nanometers. So when the nanoparticles were used, JPS is the company in which I have worked, Jaipur Systems Corporation. So even before working during my PhD itself, I had an interaction with them. So these materials exhibited, enormous, betterment in properties. So insulating properties, and then the breakdown strength was also found to increase, very highly. So after that, the theory of thermal breakdown has been applied using the conductivity, measured conductivity of these nanocomposite materials, the new materials. It has been seen that they have remarkable correlation actually. The conduction and the breakdown has relation actually. So as per the thermal breakdown theory, the breakdown strength increases due to improvement in the conduction. So this has been experimentally proved, and then even the nanocomposite materials were commercially developed, and cables were also made. So these were reported in some of our papers. And after that, this comes theoretical maximum limits on power handling capacity of HVDC cables. So just now we have seen the formula, the external heat affecting the breakdown strength, but external heat is related to load current. So breakdown strength is related to applied voltage. So applied voltage and load current have certain relationship, or breakdown strength is having certain relationship, or maximum voltage that can be applied to an insulation as where is that equation? Sorry. So that equation you remember, I believe. So Whitehead, the correction to the Whitehead equation. Anyone, if you want, I can go back also. So the equation has relation between breakdown voltage and load current with Whitehead integral in between. So if you optimize for load current and applied voltage, we will get IL optimum as this current optimum means, this is the maximum current that can be applied, and then VM optimum. Of course, maximum current means, it's before breakdown without causing any breakdown. And this is the maximum breakdown voltage that can be obtained, and then this is the power. Actually, an optimization problem has been solved using the constraint given by that equation. So with that equation, we obtain these three, and if we plot these three, so we get very interesting results. Actually, the characteristics of breakdown voltage and load current, IL, it is an ellipse actually. Of course, all the quadrants are, have same meaning only. So VM positive and VM negative means you can assume that positive voltage and negative voltage. I positive, IL positive and IL negative, you can assume that the direction of the current is in the reverse direction. So it doesn't matter. For us, one quadrant is enough, right, to understand the characteristics. So, but it forms an ellipse. The relation, whatever has been derived, or a correction to Whitehead's integral. So E is actually an elliptic characteristic. In fact, we have experimentally observed with the load current, we have conducted the breakdown tests and then found the characteristic is fitting to an ellipse perfectly. So subsequently, my students have done the experiments that will be reported later. So this is the degenerate equation to an ellipse with Vm and IL as the coordinate axis. So here the C is an optimum point, it can be proved, where the product V and I are maximum, means the power is maximum. So for delivering a maximum power, you have a point C where the current is defined as optimum current, and then voltage is defined as optimum voltage, and then current is defined as optimum current. So this point C is the maximum power point. So this is the power capability. If you plot with respect to voltage, there is a unique point where the power delivered can be maximum. That voltage is defined as optimum voltage, and the corresponding current is defined as optimum current. Now, on per unit basis, if you draw these, have Leibniz scale of Jirano, that P versus V, and Vm versus IL is a unit circle, of course, on per unit basis, because you are dividing by appropriate ellipse becomes a circle, and then this becomes a Leibniz scale of Jirano. So these are reported in theoretical maximum limits of power delivery. Actually, in fact, these are very, very useful results for a HVDC cable design. So for optimum design of cable, one has to follow these limits. Of course, these are theoretical limits. These will be high, definitely, but they will ultimately govern the cable failure over a period of time. After some time, the insulation strength no longer remains the original insulation strength at the beginning, and thermal properties will no longer be like that. So therefore, in the initial design itself, we have to, just like breakdown strength of a cable is very huge when you in the beginning of the installation. So the new cable will have very high breakdown strength, because cables are designed for at a safe level only. For example, what is the breakdown strength of cross-linked polyethylene? Do you have anyone has idea? XLPE. Okay, I'll tell you. This is, depending on the material, of course, the make and then the contamination level, all these, purity of the material, depending on that, typically 100 kV per mm at, around 60 degrees centigrade, 100 kV per mm to around 500 kV per mm is also possible. It depends on your purity level. So this is the breakdown strength of XLPE. But what is the design stress? Anyone has idea on design stress? It is typically between 10 kV per mm to 15 kV per mm, or sometimes even less. So you can imagine how much reduction is there in the design. So similarly, even Pmax also you will get a higher value, but it is important, because just like breakdown strength, we are conducting the test and then designing the cable. So here also, this kind of these results are very, very useful for design. In fact, further optimization is possible. You can decide because sigma K and then this dr R1 to R2, these are all related to size of the cable. So even RC is the conductor size. So conductor size, insulation size means what? Ultimately, design for a given electrical and thermal properties, you will get the value of Pmax using this expression. So, for a proper design, one has to take care of these power limits on HVDC cable by using these parameters. So this is what is the contribution that was made earlier. So thank you for your kind attention, and you may ask questions based on this or any other questions also. Welcome.
Yeah, participants are requested to ask questions.
Of course, these are available in the published literature of ours, as I have given in the first slide. So you can, because describing 5 papers in one presentation of 1 hour is very difficult. So I have tried my to compress it and then give the glimpses of what are all needed to you. But certain intricacies which are inherent in the papers that are not given here. You may go through the papers, of course, but whatever I have presented now, based on that, you can ask some questions. You are welcome. See, any question
Yeah.
can be asked. No need to feel shy and all. Okay.